Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Blinch, a Toronto area sports photographer. I'm here to talk to you guys about my experience shooting NHL in the NHL Bubble. For those of you who are not sure what I'm talking about, the NHL Bubble was a secure return to play place for the NHL to finish out their season after COVID-19 hit. So basically, what happened was the NHL set up two hotels in Toronto, and they also did the same thing in Edmonton. But I was only working in Toronto, and basically they created a bubble, meaning that once you're inside, you couldn't get out, and you had to stay inside the bubble. So it was quite a bizarre experience to say the least, but very thankful for the work, obviously. But being from Toronto, I still had to stay at the hotel. Um, I could see my apartment from my hotel room, um, but I couldn't go home. I had to stay in the hotel the entire time, so it was a strange experience. Living in Toronto and not being able to go home, but I was thankful that I was able to do it, even though it was quite the crazy, exhausting, bizarre experience. But uh, there was a lot of good photos to be had, and I'm gonna show you some of that work in just a bit. But first, I'll just show you some work, just some of my favorite sports pictures over the years, just as a little introduction. Um, So I work mainly as a Toronto Maple Leafs team photographer, but I also cover all the other sports in town when I'm not doing Leaf stuff. I do a lot of work for the NBA. Um, I shoot a lot of MLB for Getty in the summer, and I shoot a little bit of golf here and there. I shoot a little bit of Canadian football. Um, so I do a whole bunch of things, and I do a little bit of photojournalism work. Um, I do a whole spattering of things, which is nice. So it keeps things fresh for me. Um, so what we're looking at here, this is a Kawhi Leonard buzzer beater shot. Um, for those of you who followed the Raptors, this picture got a lot of attention. So this is probably one of my favorite pictures of all time. But yeah, it was a pretty crazy moment in sports history. Um, those of you who follow Blue Jays know these two guys. This is a really cool picture, just because you know I just love the sky in the background, and the two big guns warming up on deck. Uh, no no explanation needed. Most people know who this guy is. Sadly, passed away this year. This is him hugging his daughter at the Toronto All Star game in 2016. This was Kobe Bryant's last All Star game, so it was kind of a big deal, and this was a really nice moment of him hugging Roger Federer at the Australian Open. Alex Ovechkin. It's when the Toronto FC won the MLS Cup in Toronto. So World Juniors in Buffalo. There's a shot with a net cam. We're going to talk a lot about net cams when we get to the work in the bubble. Just some Maple Leafs work. This is one of my favorite pictures of all time as well. It just just the way all of these players line up. It's just a really cool picture. Um, this is shot with a remote camera again, which I will talk a lot about in when we talk about the bubble. This makes me reminiscent of when there were still fans in the stands. So um, this is Austin Matthews scoring an overtime winner uh, a couple of seasons ago. It's one of my favorite pictures of him. So I try to do a variety of angles when I work. Um, this is just a top-down view of two of NHL's best players facing off. Um, you know, so I try to you'll see this. There's a common theme of my work. I like to do a lot of overhead photography. As you can see here, this is Pascal Siakam rebounding a ball of Vladimir Guerrero. This was his first game. And you'll see a lot of this too in my work. You'll see a lot of you know pre-game and kind of uh, you know scenes around the game, not necessarily just all full action, but this is kind of these are kind of my favorite pictures to make is stuff around the game, not necessarily just during game action. You'll see that a lot as we go on here. This is Sidney Crosby scoring a goal at the Olympic Games in Sochi. I've done 4 Olympic Games. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. Okay, so I'm going to start moving on here to what it was like to shoot the NHL bubble, and we'll start by my kit. Um, People might think this is overkill, but once once I show you um, how everything is set up and how I do everything, this will make a lot more sense to you. So if we count them up here, there is 7 bodies, and what do we got? Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and there's one lens not shown here, so about 11 lenses. I'll show you the complete list in a minute. But there is a reason to have this many cameras. So 2 of the cameras I use shooting game action just around my neck. So I'll have one camera with a lens suitable for the action right in front of me in my end, and then I'll have another camera on me for the action in the other end. So the lens I have on in front of me is I use a crop mode, which I'll explain. It's the equivalent to about a 28 to 200. So that's suitable. So if something happens right in front of me, I'm wide enough. If something happens, at the blue line, I can go to 200, um, and that works very well. So for the opposite end, when the puck's not in my end, I use a 100 to 400. So a 400 millimeter gets me enough length to get to the net in the opposite end. And I should say also that I sit in a corner, one of the corners, and that's where you stay pretty much the whole game. So that's the best place to be for hockey. Um, This is just a little video of all the gear out on the table. It's not just photo. It's not just camera gear. There's also a lot of radio, Pocket Wizard radios here, which I'll explain to you in a bit too. You can see all of this stuff. I'll just play this one more time, and that's my netcan housing, which I'll also explain in a minute. Here, hold on. Let me restart this video. So you can see there's a lot of Pocket Wizard radios. There's a lot of wires. There's a lot of bags. Um, it's just a ton of stuff. There's just a lot of work that goes into covering sports in this way. So here's my kit. So I got one Sony A7R4, which is my main camera, which I use as a handheld. Um, and I use that in crop mode, and I use a Sony 18 to 135 on it. It's an unbelievable sharp lens. Uh, Even for a kit lens, it's really crazy sharp, and it focuses so well. But I use the A7R4 in crop mode because it allows me to get some extra shutter speed when I'm using stadium strobes. So stadium strobes is something I'll also explain. There's actually strobe packs installed in the roof at Scotiabank Arena, and our cameras hook into them. and every time we fire the shutter, the strobes, the stadium flash goes off. Um, so the A7R4 is my main camera, and then for down ice, I'll use a Sony A9 II. So I'll put the 100 to 400 lens on that. Um, it, it, it it's a bit of a crop at the other end, but 400 is still a pretty long lens. If you get any bigger, it's hard to get the camera through, like the lens through the hole. You'll see the hole. It's probably about that big. So the 100 to 400 fits through nicely, and it does give me enough length to get to the other side. Um, the other two Sony A9 IIs I use as remote cameras, and you'll see that later. What a remote camera is a camera placed in an area where you can't be during the game. So, for example, right inside the net, you'll see. I'll show you what happens with that. Um, and what you do is you fire the camera with the radio. So, there's three remote camera setups mainly used when in the bubble, and I'll show you all those in a minute. And I'll show you how that works. And the bodies left over, I keep set up for behind the scenes work, like players in the hallways, players getting ready to hit the ice, and I usually keep prime lenses on those because I like to shoot wide open at about 1.4. And the reason being, I like to do that is because you just get more light. Hallways are very, very dark. And if players are walking through, you need to get enough shutter speed to freeze them. You don't have to shoot crazy fast, but it's nice to get a nice, a high enough aperture. So that's why I love using all these prime lenses. Um, so typical kit for any sports photographer at the top here is 16 to 35, 24 to 70, 70 to 200. I have two 7200s. One I put on a remote in the roof, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. So I keep one 7200 for shooting my handheld stuff, and I put one on a remote camera. Even though I didn't use it too much, I brought the 400 millimeter 2.8. It's not typical that you'd use a 400 2.8 in hockey just because the barrel doesn't fit through the hole in the glass. But sometimes you go up in the roof and you want to shoot down on stuff, and it's nice to have that lens. So as I explained before, the 18 to 35, which is on my main camera, on crop mode, so it ends up being 28 to 200. And I'll try to reiterate again. I know that I love using the full 60 megapixels on the A7R4, but the 18 to 135 still gives me a 26 megapixel file on the A7R4 in crop mode, and it turns into about a 28 to 200. Um, and the reason I do that is because it allows me to get a higher shutter speed when using stadium strobes. I can shoot at 500th of a second instead of 250th. So that's why I put it in crop mode. The Sony 100 to 400, which is a perfect lens for down ice, like I said, and just all the prime lenses at the bottom there, like I explained. My absolute favorite focal length is 35 millimeters, and I love using the 85 as well. The 85 is a unbelievable lens. And then of course I have a 24 to 105 on hand for anything I have to run out and do. It could be anything. Could be, hey, can you go get a picture of this executive? Can you go shoot a picture of this coach really quick? Or can it's just a versatile lens that I just keep on hand. So here we'll start into some of the work. So the first thing I want you to notice is how bright these pictures are because the use of stadium strobes. So when you use the strobes, like I said, it's a giant flash in the roof, and there's a total of 8 heads in the roof, and there's packs, electronic packs, hooked up to these flash heads. So you'll see most of this work is strobed. So it allows us to achieve a really bright picture. The arena lights are bright, and you can use the normal available light there, which most photographers do, and it's totally fine. But there's just something special about a nicely lit strobed image. Um, that's really nice. Of course, the trade-off is you have to wait for the strobes to recycle, so you can't shoot on burst mode, and you also have to shoot at a lower sync speed. But so the sync speed usually is 2/50th. In crop mode, you can achieve 500th of a second, um, and that's enough to freeze it. So the flash actually becomes your shutter speed, because the flash duration is what freezes the action. Um, and of course, when you're normally shooting sports, and like most people, they don't have access to stadium strobes. You shoot around a thousandth of a second to try and freeze the action, and you could use burst mode. For example, on the Sony A9, you could shoot 20 frames per second, which is unbelievable. So, if you get a whole sequence of 20 frames a second, right, you can pick the picture right out of there, no problem. But when you're shooting on strobes, you get one picture per 2 seconds. So you really have to time your moments and wait for it. People think that it sounds really hard, but once you get used to it, it's not as hard as it seems. So as you can see here too, it's just you can see everything's just illuminated quite brightly. The stadium light doesn't provide this nice of like even light. All the shadows are filled in on the faces. The colors on the jerseys pop out, right? So there's another example of where you can see it. Oh, I also meant to hold on a second here. Be able to show you the EXIF data. I don't know why this isn't working right now. Oh, bear with me just for a sec. Of course. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Just so as we're going through pictures here too, um, I'll put the EXIF data will be up here, um, and you can see. So this one, obviously, I'm shooting at 5.6 at 1/500th of a second. This is using stadium strobes. So and then you could see which camera I used up here. So it's A7. So as I'm going through the pictures, you guys can have a look at what the data is up here if you're interested in that. Um, so this is what my spot looked like. This is where I sat every game. Um, I have my computer set up here, and then I'll show you an alternate angle here. Um, so there's my two main cameras, as I explained, with the 18 to 135 on it, and the 100 to 400 on the other one. And then you can see there in the background in the chair, I have those two cameras set up strictly for shooting hallway stuff and available light stuff. So the reason I like to have so many cameras is because I don't want to switch my setup all the time, right? So if my cameras are set up for strobes, and they're at like 200 ISO, I don't want to have to turn the strobes off, take the camera, put a different lens on it, change the ISO. It literally takes way too much time. So that's why I keep two available light cameras there in the back, and you'll see some of the hallway work that I do with those cameras. And then these two cameras right here, I keep strictly for on ice action. And then you'll see on top, I'll have um, uh, some Pocket Wizard units, which are the radios that fire the strobes. And you'll see I have two Pocket Wizards attached to my down ice camera here. You'll see There's a wizard attached on the right of the camera, and then there's a wizard attached to another wizard. Um, all of those all of those wizards are firing different cameras, and I'll show you which ones, and I'll show you how I fire them. So that's the view from the other side. And I should explain. A lot of people are wondering how do you edit all this stuff? Well, I don't personally edit uh, when I work for the NHL. The NHL hires editors, which is amazing. So what happens is we put our cards in the computer here, and then they go off to, there was two editors in California that were editing all of the NHL bubble pictures. So that's why I had a laptop right beside me. And with the NHL, what they do is they send all of the pictures to Getty Images for sale. So of course the NHL still owns the images, but the Getty will sell them. So if you want to go have a look at NHL images, you can search them on Getty. They're all there. You can see them. Um, so these are the strobe packs that I was telling you about. So these things are crazy, crazy powerful. I think it's 2,400 watt seconds. So there's two packs per head, um, and there's four sets of strobes. So that means four photographers can be on strobes. And the reason why there's four sets is because if photographers, you can't really share a set, because if a photographer fires a strobe, um, and then another photographer fires a strobe at the same time, it could seriously damage the pack and blow them. So this is what the strobes look like, and they're just above the ice. So just to give you an idea of what it looked like in there, they built this whole set um, because there's no fans in the seat, and that created some cool picture opportunities, which I'll show you in a bit. But what I did want to show you is, I'm not sure if you can see it on the video very well, but if you look up here, you can see four heads, like right where this mouse is pointing, right underneath the Toronto Raptors banner. Um, these are the strobe heads I was talking about, where the flashes come from. So there is a total of 8 of these around the entire rink. This is the only spot you can really see them in this angle. But there's one here, 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 here. There's a set there, 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 and then right above my head, right up here. Um, so it covers the entire sheet of ice when you fire the strobe. So, like I said before, I love to do a lot of hallway work. So this is Sidney Crosby walking through the hallways to the locker room. Um, it was very bizarre to see. So there was, I can't remember how many teams there was, but I'm pretty sure, I think there was 8. But uh, they all had to switch locker rooms. So the teams were using the Toronto Raptors locker room. For example, there was teams using the Leafs locker room, which is the most bizarre thing. Teams that are not supposed to be using the Leafs locker room are in there, and the NHL just did this to keep it fair. And then they actually turned a media room into a locker room, where normally where we go and we eat food and hang out before the game. They turned that into a locker room. So there was a total of 4 locker rooms that they had. They had the Leafs locker room, the Raptors locker room, and then they have the away team locker room, which is normally where away teams go. And then they had a makeshift locker room that they made in a media room. So um, normally I photograph Maple Leafs walking through this blue hallway, but it was bizarre to see Sidney Crosby walking through here. So um, yeah, so you can see, same hallway. I love doing this stuff. Um, I love doing, and this is Frederick Anderson taking the ice. So again, this is all shot on prime lenses. You can see here, this was shot on the 85 at 1.4. So I love using these prime lenses to shoot little moments before the game, and I just love using it at 1.4 because I just love the soft bokeh in the back. Um, Again, Sidney Crosby walking through these hallways. Um, this is actually the Raptors hallway, which is why it's red. So the Penguins were using the Raptors locker room here. And this is me walking through that same hallway. This is a screen grab from a video. But you can see how many cameras I'm carrying, right? So this is just, I'm getting ready. This is the first game of the day. So I've got my two main cameras just right here, which I shoot on strobes. And then I've got my two cameras on my shoulders here, which I use for shooting in the hallways and available light and things like that. So this is my makeshift setup to fire my remote cameras. So this camera, this is on my down ice camera, and I've just taped two buttons to the barrel and the zoom ring. So when I zoom in and out, I use my thumb, and when I want to fire my remote camera, I can just hit the button, and it's just right there. And then you'll see how this works. So this is actually a remote camera. This is a perfect example of how it works. So I'm not actually in the roof, right? My remote camera is clamped into the roof and it's safety down. I'll show you a picture of it. It's coming up here in a minute. It's clamped down and it stays there and it's pre-focused. And we have it hooked up to the network via Ethernet cord. And when I take the picture, the camera fires in the roof. So I fire just from my seat on ice level. And the camera will send the picture directly to my computer within seconds. So these overhead angles are really good to show goals, right? And this is actually what it looks like when it's in the roof. So it looks like a bit of a rat's nest, but I'll explain it. So we have two magic arm clamps here. And what this does is allows us to clamp it to the railing here. And then with all these safety wire, this is all wire to secure the camera. If God forbid one of these magic arms broke, obviously we don't want the lens or the camera to fall. So all of the camera is safety cabled using airline cable right to the railing, right? And then here's my Pocket Wizard radio, you'll see. And that's the view that's what it looks like pre-game. That's just a Zamboni going through. So as you can see, I have the FTP on, and this cord here is what hooks it up to the internet, so I can send the pictures straight out, and they land right on my computer. So I don't have to go upstairs and get the cord, right? Because going upstairs is a 10-minute ordeal. You got to get in the elevator, you got to wait for the elevator, you got to go all the way up there. So that's why we hook it up to the internet. We get the pictures right away. And this is how I powered it. We had a little power. This is actually a video. We had a little power thing. So I just left the camera on the whole time. So like I didn't really need to do anything. I just kind of left it up there. You can see here it's all powered and it's plugged into a power cord. And there's my safety cables here, right? And then finally at the end, this is just a Pocket Wizard. So this is an actual radio of how the camera's fired. So I'm actually going to show you here in a netcam what that looks like. I actually set up a camera here to show you. So this is actually what we're using to fire these cameras. If you can look here. So this is just a magic arm, and it's attached to a lens here, right? So, and then this, this is just a clamp, right? That you can literally just clamp to anything, and so that's what that looks like. It's obviously we use two magic arms, one for the lens and one for the body, and then we safety them down as I showed you there. But I'll show you how that works in a minute here on a netcam. So this is a net cam. So this is actually a camera inside a plastic housing that we clamp right into the net. Uh, of course, we can't hook this one up to the internet because we can't have a wire going into the camera because it's just impossible because it's out on the ice. And you'll probably ask, well, why don't you use Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi in a building is never dependable. There's just so much interference going on that Wi-Fi it's just to send that many high-res pictures quickly. It just doesn't work. So that's why we can't use Wi-Fi inside the net. Um, so we just have to grab these cards between periods. But this is what it looks like. So it's a really, really cool view, a pretty unique view. Normally, you wouldn't see. Up on the left here, you'll see that's actually a TV camera. So that's the TV version of the Netcam. So it's really nice when you can get a goal, right? So it's really cool. And people always wondering, oh well, like you don't even really, do you really take the picture? It's like yes, you do because you wait for the moment in front of the net and then you hit the button and then you pray that something works out later when you see it. Um, that's actually what it looks like when it's in the net. So it's clamped to the back pole there, the back bar on the net, right? And that's kind of to give you a little bit more context. Um, and so I was actually going to show you guys here how this actually works. Um, so that's it. That's the net cam. Um, you can see it's just a plastic housing, right? So if a puck hits it, it's protected. And then inside, get the wizard here. Okay, so this is a Pocket Wizard radio. Okay, you can see inside. Hold on a second. There's another Pocket Wizard radio right here. Okay, so these two Wizard radios are talking to each other. And then, as you can see, when I hit the button on this one, you can hear it. It's firing the camera inside this housing, right? So that's how we're able to do it. And then this clamp at the back, that's just what clamps to the bar, right? So once you've set this all up properly, right? So this cover just fits over top here, right? And it just sits in the net, right? It's pretty awesome. Every once in a while, yeah, they do get hit with pucks and they do break, but it protects your camera. I've never really had anything break. I've had pucks and sticks hit the camera, but the camera usually ends up okay. So so that's what that looks like. And then moving on, this is the third remote angle that I do. So this picture is actually, I'm not taking this with my hands. It's just another camera mounted on the boards. And what's cool about this angle is that normally I'd never be allowed to do this because there'd be fans sitting where the camera is. You'll see it. It's right up against the glass. So normally we wouldn't be allowed to do it. So this is an angle that we never get to do ever. And the reason I wanted to do this angle is because to show off the set in the back, right? So this set obviously is not normally here. This is like all of this stuff. This is where fans sit, right? And these big video screens are never here. But the NHL made a giant set because they wanted to make it. They didn't want the arena to look soulless and empty. So they made a big set in the background, and it actually looked pretty good. So again, from the same angle. Now I want to show you the difference between, this is a good example to show you between strobed and not strobed images. So this this picture is actually strobed, and what I did is I left the strobes at the opposite end of the ice off on purpose, so it sort of falls to black. And so we call this theater lighting. So only the strobes on this side of the ice are on, so the back falls a little bit darker. So it's just a cool dramatic effect. But that's the difference when it's not strobed. Um, right? You can see the difference in quality. There's a little bit of motion blur on this player, which is a little bit frustrating. I didn't have the shutter speed set correctly. That was an accident. But that's still a good example of the difference in quality. And that's where it was. That was where, again, just another magic arm. Um, and it was just set up there. Normally, this is where fans' legs would be in the front row seats. So we couldn't normally do this, right? So um, again, you'll see the Ethernet cord plugged in right to the left, and it's sending the picture straight to my computer where I'm sitting. So that's pretty much the remote angles. Now I think I'll go through some of the favorite shots I had uh, from the from the actual games themselves. So um, as you can see, this is kind of a good idea of what everything looked like. So this is just a national anthem, the start of a game. But if you can follow my mouse cursor, my overhead camera would be somewhere up here. You just can't see it, but it's mounted to the roof, right? So like I said, there's a lot of things I like to do before the game. I love doing stuff around the game, right? Like the stuff on the fridges. This has sort of become a popular thing in sports photography these days, where you get to see these guys behind the scenes, right? So as you can see, goalies are pretty intense, and they always do stuff like this before the game. They're always kind of on their own, and they're always kind of visualizing what they're about to do. Um, so I just love doing this sort of stuff. And again, as you can see, um, of course, using that 85 millimeter lens, I love it at 1.4. And people are probably wondering, with COVID protocols and all of that stuff, like what kind of safety precautions were you? But of course, we were everybody working there was wearing masks. The players all had to wear masks. The only time the players were not allowed to wear masks is when they were playing or eating. So those are the two times you weren't allowed to those are the two times you were allowed to take your mask off. So when they show up, when they walk to the rink, you'll see they all have masks on. And but of course, everybody was tested every day, and there was not one case of COVID the entire time, which is unbelievable. Again, um, just quiet moments before things kick off. Um, this is the kind of stuff that I love to do. So outside the visitor locker room, they have this giant sign that says Toronto. So I wanted to make use of it just for a sense of time and place. Um, you know, there was a lot of pictures that were made that normally wouldn't really make that much sense. Um, but there was a lot of angles and other things that I could do because there's no fans in the building. So, um, this just gives us a sense of time and place. Uh, you know, just because it says Toronto there, and it just, when I'm making these pictures, I'm trying to think of like what it's going to look like historically, like in 20 years from now, when we all look back, like, oh, do you remember when we were all playing in a bubble? Like, you can look back at these pictures and be like, oh, wow, that's what it looked like. So that's kind of how I think when I'm doing things like this. And again, here's another. This is one of my favorite pictures from the entire thing. Again, shot at 1.4 because I love the bokeh. 35 mil. Um, but this is normally where fans sit. I never ever ever get to shoot something like this because there'd be fans in the seats right here. You can see the seats are covered up with the set piece, but and again, there would never be a video board behind there to give that nice little look. So these are pictures that I love to make. So this is Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews there behind him. But these are you know uh, pictures you're not gonna see. Hopefully, we're not wearing masks for forever. But like you're gonna look back at this and you're gonna be like, oh wow, that's Mitch Marner in a mask, right? So and arrival pictures are always are getting more important to shoot. People love arrival pictures. They love to see what players are wearing. Um, we do this in basketball as well. Uh, Arrival pictures are huge on social media. People love to see the shoes, everything. So again, it's just more moments of just before the game, right? So outside the Leafs locker room, there is a giant blue sign. It's a fluorescent blue sign, and it just makes this bizarre light, and I love it. Again, more hallway stuff. Like I just love shooting this stuff. This shot at 50 mil, 1.4. As you can see, I'm still getting a thousandth of a second. So these guys walk pretty fast when they come off the ice. So I want to be able to freeze it. And at 1.4, I'm able to get 3200 ISO still. So you can see that all that info's up here. A9 Mark II, which is amazing in low light. So you can see that the pictures are pretty clean, grain wise. And no more netcam stuff, but this is stuff, the kind of stuff you could shoot before the game starts, right? So before the game starts, they have all these spotlights swirling around. The house lights are off, um, and they point the spotlight straight at the goalie when they're introducing them. So I just hammer the netcam button and it fires, and then you hope it turns out. And this one did, right? The spotlight pointing right into the lens, right? So, and this is the same moment from the remote camera behind the net. So this is an example of how these remote cameras work. So if you follow my mouse cursor here, you can actually see the net cam in the back of the back of the net here, shooting the same picture at the same time that I'm shooting this. So you can see the value of remote cameras, right? You can provide more coverage with less photographers. So while it's a little bit more expensive to buy all the gear, it's pretty imperative if you want to be a sports photographer to be able to use remote cameras to be more versatile like this. Just another moment again with that blue light. Um, I just love it when it's on, and this is really low light, right? So 1.4 at 500th of a second, 3200 ISO. I think this A7 Mark III on a 85 again at 1.4. So this is something that strobes allow us to do. Um, you can get really bright, clean images, and you can crop into them pretty well. You can actually see the ref about to drop the puck here, and this is just Austin Matthews' eyes just waiting for the puck to drop. This is shot on the 100 to 400 lens, zoomed all the way into 400, so you can see that I love the tightness and the way the strobes just light up all up the jersey and give you all the nice little details here. Yeah, more hallway stuff that I love doing. And this is weird stuff because normally this is where all the fan suites are, well, like suites where businesses will buy a box for a game or a season. um, and because of all the weird locker rooms, these players had to walk through all these hallways. Again, it's another view of an uh, overhead angle. It's a pretty cool angle when stuff happens. Again, too, you can see my net cam back there. You see it around the cursor. So when I'm firing this camera, I'm also firing the net cam at the same time. And basically, I'll wait until the puck is around the net, and that's when I'll choose to fire the remote cameras. Again, a lot of overhead work. There's another picture later. These two always do this before every game. They kneel together for about a minute. Um, so it's kind of cool to like. This is just shot. This is actually shot with a handheld during warm-ups. I just went up to the roof to shoot it. So this is actually one of my favorite pictures of the whole thing. Um, Again, if we're going to take advantage of things I'm not normally able to do, this is something that is a perfect example of that. Because so normally all of this is seats, right? And normally when this is just Austin Matthews coming off the ice after warm-ups before the game, but when they come through, um, normally all these fans are here and they'll be leaning over and they'll try to be give them high fives or whatever. But they covered all the seats with this graphic, so it's kind of cool, and kind of like a surreal look of a player just walking through this giant set piece. Um, yeah, this turned out to be one of my favorite images. So I shot this from the roof. Um, uh, it was a really cool angle. So this is again that remote camera I was talking about. This was a version without strobes, so you can see in the background everything's lit up or evenly lit. And this is available light. You could see the difference, right? Because there's just a little bit of grain just from the higher ISO, but it still looks really nice. But the strobes really make it pop. But yeah, I mean, it's such a useful angle, to provide. And here's an example of where a remote camera actually saves you. Um, this picture was this moment was a crazy save. He kind of dove and he just barely saved the puck here with his stick. He kind of just dove and it didn't go in. It was unbelievable save. This picture is not as good from anywhere else, right? Ice level, you can't really see the players are in the way, but as an overhead picture, it kind of saves you, right? So you just when you have more remote cameras like this, it really does help you save things. Again, more pregame moments. Again, with the 85 mil at 1.4, he's just taking his helmet off here for the anthem. So um, I love looking for little moments like this. In hockey, celebration pictures are kind of key. They get the most use. Teams love using them on social media. It's a big, big, big part of shooting hockey is celebration pictures like this. So these are always important to get. Or hallway stuff. I love hanging out in the hallways and doing this stuff. Um, it provides a nice little historical reference. Years from now, you get to look back and see what all this stuff looks like, right? Um, again, the Raptors hallway, right? It's painted red for Raptors, but they had to use it for hockey. Yeah, I just like going upstairs and doing stuff like this. And this is just during warm-ups, right? So you get nice little graphic images, especially looking down on the ice. And this is just Malkin warming up. I'll make a day of it. I'll go upstairs and I'll try a bunch of stuff, and you just like to get different kinds of things. I just like trying all kinds of angles I can. Sidney Crosby skating around with the spotlights swirling around the ice during introductions. Um, I should mention too. This is shot with a Sony A9 II. if you could see, this is 6400 ISO. Like, this is pretty clean. It's pretty amazing what the cameras can do these days. The Sony stuff really, really does clean high ISOs. I have no problem going up to 12,000 ISO and being confident that the image will be pretty clean. Um, and low light performance is huge in sports. Um, it's always good to have that option to be able to shoot in dark hallways, or maybe you're at an arena that's really dark. You really want to have that option. You see just more general action. You can see how the strobes really light things up here. Again, more arrival pictures, but this is kind of funny because the Toronto Maple Leafs were assigned to the Raptors locker room for this game. So Austin Matthews decided to wear a Raptors gear when he arrived. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty smart of him, and I'm glad I was there to do it. So I got him walking by the little Raptors logo at the back there, and yeah, I like this picture. And again, so if we're going to talk about historical um, weird images, 20 years from now, it'd be like, it could be a trivia question. When did the Leafs use the Toronto Raptors locker room? When did that ever happen? Well, here it is, right? Mitch Marner coming out. You see the Raptors logo in the back there. It says Maple Leafs dressing room. You got the two towels beside the Raptors logo. It's a bit of a messy picture, but it's a good picture for um, historical use, right? Because you know, I mean, who would have thought that in 2020 the Leafs would have had to use the Raptors locker room? I mean, geez, if I had a crystal ball and a bet in Vegas for that, I'd be retired. But um, yeah, it's pretty interesting. And this is the same player just coming down the hallway. Just had to get pumped up for the games, right? They're coming down the Raptors hallway. It's red. Again, quiet moments before the game. This is shot with 85 again at 1.4. So you get that really nice bokeh and the players sort of stick out. And then see how I just look for different angles, right? This is the same anthem, and I just went wider. And all of this, and it's shot through the glass, so all of the Canadian flags are sort of reflecting off the glass, and you get to see, it's just a nice little image that you try to make. I'm always looking for different stuff. Like every moment I get, I always try to look for different stuff like this. This is this kid's first goal, Nicholas Robertson. He's a pretty exciting young player, and he played his first NHL hockey in the bubble. So what a weird way to start your career with no fans. But he also scored his first goal. So these are pictures that are really important to get. These are pictures that the team always looks for. Um, Again, just more strobed, intense. Like I just love the way the strobes light everything up. This is the 100 to 400 again. It's pretty unbelievable the quality of strobes and a tight lens like this. Same thing. Just the way the strobes light everything up. It's just you just can't beat it. Again, this is just more creativity, right? I just try to find places and hallways. Is just the guys going out for the game, using a little. There's a Leafs logo on the wall on the left here that's made of steel, and it reflects really nicely. So I'm always looking for this kind of stuff, and these are the kind of pictures I don't normally get to make because there would be all sorts of stuff. There'd be camera guys here. There'd be uh, coaches. There'd be all sorts of people, PR people standing there, and ushers are standing here too. And normally I don't get the hallway this clean when I shoot hockey, but because it's COVID, there's nobody there. So it really does provide, you know, it was in a very interesting way. COVID really did allow me to do some stuff I never ever get to do normally. More overhead work. Yeah, and the more pre-game stuff, I just love doing this stuff. Just Sidney Crosby skating around in the spotlight there. Remember how I told you these guys always kneel together at the start? This is again same thing, and these guys are really close, so they like these pictures. Uh, these two guys, it's nice for them to see stuff like this. Um, I think the players enjoy it when they get to see their camaraderie in a photograph. This was taken from the wildest Leafs game probably I've ever shot in my life. The Leafs were down with 4 minutes left to go. They're down 3-0, facing elimination, and they somehow scored 3 goals and forced an overtime. It was the craziest Leafs game I've ever seen in my life. I don't think I don't think there's been anything that wild before. And this is Austin Matthews after he scored the winning overtime goal. And so these are pictures that the team loves, right? It's just like it shows the success. Everybody's happy. This was just a wild moment, and it's really sad that there's no fans in the background because it would have just been absolutely insane if fans were there. But instead, we got empty stands there, and there's nothing we can do about it. I also love how you can see how he's got his number 34 written on his glove in a Sharpie, and then a little heart. I like that you can see that. You don't normally get to see that because his hands are wrapped around the stick, but yeah, this was a crazy moment. Right, so this is after the goal, and then they kept going because they wanted to do the celebration, and then to the left, here they all are jumping on the player. So it's just love doing these little different moments, as I said. Um, this is your classic general hockey action picture, just people going, crazy. Um, More hallway work. Again, with strobes and tight lenses, you can really do a lot of cool stuff, right? Like he's just waiting for that face off to start. Like look at the detail in his beard and his uniform and everything. It's quite nice. Now, this is pictures I wanted to show. It's not the greatest pictures in the world, but I'm going to show you how remotes kind of save you sometimes. This was the fourth longest hockey game ever. Uh, it went 8 periods, I think. It was absolutely brutal. I was already tired, and I still had another game to shoot after this. But the game was crazy. It was 8 periods long, so it was like it was it was insane. They ended up canceling the game afterwards because it was just like forget about it. This game just took way too long. I think it started at 3 or 4 in the afternoon and it ended at 11. It was hard, um, especially in the middle of all of it when you were already really exhausted. But that's the winning goal. This picture's not very good because the guy who scored the goal here, number 21, is out of focus. But you do see the goalie and the goalie's reaction and his teammate. I don't love the picture, but I'm just showing you. Anyways, this is the celebration. But here it is from the net cam. So you got the reason why this is cool is because if you look up here, you see it's the eighth period, and you see there's 9:33 left, and you see the score is still tied on the background. So that's why remotes are good for this sort of thing. And there's the same picture from the overhead, but you don't get to see the player who scored because he was too far from the net. And then here's the whole scene with the player that scored. Just on the mouse here, you see the puck going in the net. And this is why remotes are good, right? Like this is why you need them um, for moments like this. It's just a shot of the scoreboard afterwards, just to show you how insane it was. This is the amount of time each player played. Uh, to give you an idea, normally a good player will play around 20 minutes a game, and these guys are playing upwards to an hour, so they must have been exhausted. Just more hallway work. Just I love doing that kind of stuff. Net cams are always best when you can see the goalie's face, right? So you get to see the goal, and then you get to see the goalie sort of dejected. So that's why I love stuff like this. More hallway work. It's important too. After a team loses, you have to shoot the dejection of the team that lost, just for historical purposes. This is one of my absolute favorite photos from the entire thing. The guy just coming out the gate there. Again, I would never be able to stand here and shoot this picture. I wasn't actually on the ice; I was behind the glass. But normally, there'd be fans sitting here, and I just wouldn't be able to do it. I just wouldn't be allowed to shoot from here. But this is just a player hitting the ice. I absolutely love this picture. His spotlight going right in the frame, and the smoke coming off there. It's just awesome. Netcam stuff, always stuff. I love doing the black and white sometimes. It looks pretty gritty. I think I already showed that picture. Again, just stuff not that we don't normally look at. Guys taking the ice. Normally we don't see all these video screens in the back. So you take every advantage you can to make pictures you would never get to make again. Another quiet moment before the game starts. I just love stuff like this. This is just they're introducing the players, so all the spotlights are still on, the house lights are off. Again, another one of my favorite photos. This is Carey Price. Just look at what the quality of the strobes give you. Shot at 400 millimeters. Just unbelievable quality. It's pretty intense. This is just before a face-off, so goalies always lean down like this. Or hallway work again. And I love shooting at 1.4 again. This is a 24 millimeter lens. The guy's just hitting the ice, but you can see in the back all the bokeh. It's really nice. Again, more celebration pictures. That's my partner Chase Angelo Dean in the back there. He's a Blackhawks photographer. So we were one of two photographers in the bubble. And then the Bruins social media photographer here. You see, we're all wearing masks, right? Love this moment. Again, you never get to shoot this. Security would never let me stand here in normal times, but I took the advantage. And goalies don't normally stand here, but for whatever reason, this goalie stood there. It made a really cool picture, right? More hallway work. Celebration photos again, very important. This is again the angle I can't. This was my favorite angle of the whole thing. I love shooting from here. The guys taking the ice. Sometimes it's good to have these storytellers too. Like Carter Hart was a big fan of Carey Price growing up, and his team eliminated Carey Price here, or Carey Price's team, the Canadians, and it's just a mutual respect. More celebration stuff. Yeah, and you never really get to make this stuff, so I just love all the stuff in the background, and it's just as years go by, this is you're gonna look back at these and be like, wow, that was a really bizarre time. Again, another one of my favorites. So this is just a player stopping in front of the goalie and created this just giant snowstorm. So that brings us to the end here, but I just want to show you how much hockey I shot. This is before the last game, so 60 games played, 21 period of overtime, 3,863 minutes, and around 64 hours played. So I spent nearly 2.5 days looking through a lens over the 6 weeks. So it was pretty exhausting. And then with me, I just looked at how many pictures there were over the entire thing. Total images shot around 294,000 pictures, which is 3.1 terabytes. And before everybody gets on me about not shooting raw, we didn't shoot raw because we had to send the pictures to editors, and that would have just killed the internet speed. So we shot JPEG. Normally I shoot raw. And out of those 294,000 pictures, the editors chose 4,250 images to send to Getty. And yeah, well, it's just a lot of work. But anyways, that's it for me. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. You can find my email, my Instagram online. I'm usually pretty good at answering anything. I know there was no questions around this presentation, but please reach out to me. I'm always happy to answer when I'm not busy, and I'm not busy right now. So, anyways, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you watching. Take it easy.